a mythical trail to the forbidden, impenetrable, inescapable adventure of a lifetime.
Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it for y'all. Yeah, you know.
Welcome to an apprentice magician's home. During lockdown, I had a strange compulsion to resurrect the arts of wizardry and take myself out into the wild to do so. The weirding ways of the world gave me that opportunity. So here I am, but a stone's throw from Tintagel and the land of Arthur. And I thought, what better place to explore a little magic than here. Here is my little home, which I will give you a tour of shortly, and a guide on how to build your own, should you wish to. First, it has to be said, it's very hard to have a bad day when it starts by taking cool water straight from a spring. It does put a smile on your face. So the spine is dug into the ground here and runs right up the edge and over. I've got 2 tarpaulins, 1, 2. This one, I believe, was something like 5 meters by 10 meters, and this was, I believe, 3 meters by 5, although I'm not entirely sure about that. I first of all built the structure. That was finished first, and then and the tarpaulin stretched as best I could, and at the corner it was tied with a stone put in the tarpaulin, rope bound around that to grab the stone in the corner. So that stops the tarpaulin ripping and gives a good anchor point, and those are pegged down with coppiced hazel pegs, or whatever wood was at hand. I then dug a trench along 6 inch wide, about the depth of a spade, along the edge of the tarpaulin, took that turf, put it on top of the tarpaulin, pulled the tarpaulin back under it, and then did that twice more, widening that trench and pulling the tarpaulin under. And so the tarpaulin actually goes down about 6 inches below what was the ground level. This is about now 6 inches above the ground, and the weight of that pushing down that turf sat on top of the tarpaulin pushes down and keeps the tension in it. I've then got a trench running right around a sort of moat, so that if a heavy rainfall comes, as it will do, and there's runoff water running down this field, it'll get captured in that trench. There's a slight incline running down the field this way, and the majority of the water will be taken down and can soak away in this part of the lower part of the field out of my way. I've got a small V-shaped stick here which just catches the back edge of that tarp and to create tension in that edge and keep this relatively taut. And these channels just run down, same on the other side, to a small soak away. So moving inside, This little stove is just one of those little glamping stoves where I want to build up a good supply inside to prepare for the winter. And then I've got, I'm going to build myself a few ricks, you might call them, like this. This way you're getting the airflow through them constantly, so if it rains and they get a bit wet, the water's running off the main part of it, and the other gets dried off in the day, so you don't get waterlogged wood as it is if it's laying on the ground. All my little sticks which come off as I'm cutting the wood I've stacked up here to give me a easy way, so although it's a little bit lazy, I use one fire lighter and a handful of those sticks and the stove is going. I can obviously close this off, and I have bungee cords down here which can capture it. Moles. So this part of the tent, again, we've got this central spine running up. You can't actually see it, but the central spine runs down through that crease right down to the ground. Now I've got these very lightweight, but they do it enough, and they're all pushing out because they're bent artificially, so they're all maintaining tension. This is tight in itself, and they're all pushing out onto the tarpaulin and keeping it tight, partly because if it's loose it'll act like a sail and the wind will just catch it and endanger the whole structure, but also that tension keeps it quiet, otherwise you can't sleep through a high wind. It cost probably around £100-120. 2 tarpaulins I think were £70, and then on top of that I bought a 20 metres of this cheap sisal cord, and then I did buy 2 rolls of polyethylene cord as well. There's a certain variety of ivy that you can bind quite well with, but yes, how much strength it has after a long time is questionable. It's you get a kind of wicker basically. Nowadays it's very rare to find somebody who actually keeps their axe or hatchet sharp, but if you actually go to that trouble and make it razor sharp, it's incredible what an efficient tool it is. I can cut through a 4-inch piece of oak in, it'll take about, well, an oak, a hard oak, if it's dried, might take about 15 swings, but it's amazing how fast, and anything else you can chop through in 4 or 5 paired swings to cut a V shape. So it's really not that much slower than a chainsaw, and an awful lot more pleasurable to use than chainsaw, where you're permanently in danger of cutting your leg off. You could still cut your leg off with one of these quite easily, particularly when it's properly sharpened, but you're in command of it. This slate actually creates a very fine, very high quality whetstone. So with this great long whetstone, once a day, if I'm using my axe daily, I can sharpen it to a razor's edge on this fine stone, and relatively quickly honing it on my belt until I can shave with it. I spliced this little holster for my hatchet together. So one loop spliced with the ends of this rope bound into a little loop up the top, and then this with a toggle on it, so this can just be threaded through under my belt, creating this loop top and bottom. Through those loops and then this toggle can come over the top to catch it and stop it from falling out if I bend over. I think that is more or less the tour completed. All there is to say, I think, is that I highly encourage anybody who feels they need a little space in life to find themselves a spot and build themselves a shelter and live in the wild for a little while. It's amazing what a restorative effect it has on you, and yeah, you really can't help but wake up with a smile on your face. We lose so many of those satisfying little moments, I've come to realise, when we're living in houses with all our modern conveniences. The act of cutting wood, of fetching water, they're pleasures when you're somewhere beautiful, when you've got the seasons changing right before your eyes. It really does bring the pleasure back to life. If you do so, find yourself a monolith. When you're done, perhaps you can carve something and leave something to last for a few thousand years.